Welcome to Content and Conversations, the podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners that want to prioritize connection and relationship as the primary tool to drive sales. Content and conversations are the two most powerful tools you have to attract the most amazing clients, build solid relationships, and sell more stuff. From sales, marketing, energy, and mindset, we'll discuss everything you need to hit your goals, make more money, and have more fun in your business. Let's go. All right. Hello, and welcome back to Content and Conversations. It is not Content and Conversations live this week. We took the week off for Labor Day, but I am excited to be here with you to have a conversation about how do we end inconsistent revenue. So I like to say that, when we talk about from a marketing perspective, what do we do as an agency, the connection agency? We are a sales and marketing technology company, but the number one problem that we solve for entrepreneurs, business owners is the inconsistent revenue problem, right? Like, why is the revenue inside of my business inconsistent? And what we mean by inconsistent means like we go through these feast or famine roller coasters, or we go through phases where we're making a ton of money and then we're not making a ton of money, or we'll sign 5, 6, 7, 8, 20 clients, and then we won't sign clients for a while. And I believe that it basically boils down to one of three problems, which I'm going to break down for you today so that you can really figure out A, which one of these is plaguing my business, and then B, what action steps do I need to take to fix these things? So it's one of three problems. If you have inconsistent revenue in your business, meaning that there is not predictable revenue coming into your business every single month, every single quarter, every single year, that there's one of these three problems. And I also want to kind of give a little bit of an asterisk to this. Like, I understand that hockey stick growth is not normal, right? It's not typical. And what I mean by that is, back in 2020, 2021, there was businesses going from $0 to $10 million overnight. Not to say that you can't make a lot of money very quickly, but that kind of growth is not typical. That kind of growth is not typically sustainable for businesses, which we've obviously seen here in 2023 as a lot of those businesses have gone away or a lot of things have changed. But, the idea that you're like, hey, if I'm the type of business that typically makes $100,000 every month, some months it might be 90, some months it's 120, but to me that's consistent. But if we're going from like, hey, I'm having $50,000, $60,000 months and the next month I'm having a $20,000 month, again, there's one of three things happening. And so the first one is activity. And what I mean by activity is that the right sales and marketing activity is not happening every single day, day in and day out, to generate and fill a sales pipeline that creates consistent revenue. So that activity, and this is going to look different for every single one of you listening right now, depending on the conversion strategy inside of your company. But the activity is, what is the sales activity, right? Like, how many people are we talking to every single day? How many invitations are we actually making, right? So that to me is the conversations part of content and conversation. So what do the sales conversations look like? If you're not having consistent sales conversations, you're not likely going to generate consistent revenue in the business, right? And so this is a huge problem for a lot of businesses, especially very small companies, where it is the business owner, CEO, who's responsible for driving the revenue primarily. Being able to actually make time to have those conversations every single day is one of the biggest challenges we see. But if you actually make the time, effort, and energy to do that, it will change everything in your business, because consistent conversations is going to result in consistent revenue. But then there is also the issue of, are we consistently showing up on social media or in your podcast, your YouTube channel, your email, whatever, again, your primary sales tool is? What does that activity look like, right? Like, if you're posting on social media 3 times a week, like, that's just not going to cut it. It's just not going to generate the type of revenue that you want to generate in your business, because social media moves too fast, right? There's so much competition for our ideal clients' attention that if we are not very intentional about getting their attention, we will not get it, right? So what is the sales and marketing activity that generates revenue in your business every single day? And is that happening consistently every single day? And I know that sounds obvious, but I mean, I sat down with companies that are making millions of dollars and really asked about like their sales activity or their marketing activity, what this looks like for their businesses. And the number of multi-million-dollar businesses that this is not happening consistently is pretty large. So I don't want you beating yourself up if you're newer in your business building journey and you're like, shit, that's totally me. I need to get my stuff together. Well, yes, of course you do need to get your shit together if you want your company to grow. But this is an ongoing thing that happens at all levels of business, right? Your business grows, priorities change, challenges change, your attention gets pulled in multiple different directions. That's extremely normal. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just like, okay, what am I going to do to make sure that the sales and marketing activity is happening every single day in my business? And if I don't have the bandwidth to do it, who is going to do it, right? Am I going to hire someone? Am I going to hire a teammate, a team member? Am I going to work with an agency like the Connection Agency? What needs to happen to make sure that the sales and marketing activity is happening? So that is the number one reason you're experiencing inconsistent revenue, is because your sales and marketing activity is inconsistent. And there's a few things happening there, right? There's, of course, we're not getting the attention, we're not getting the reps, we're not getting the eyeballs, we're not getting the touches that we need to really move the needle and drive revenue. But also, what are we telling our ideal clients, right? When we're not showing up energetically consistently, there's an energy mismatch that happens in that, right? Like when I am following somebody and I'm interested in them and I'm interested in their content and I'm interested in what they're doing, and then they disappear for a little while and they come back, right? I'm sending some mixed messages out into the marketplace that, this person isn't consistent. And so if they're not consistent in their sales and marketing activity, and they're not consistent in the sales process, are they going to be consistent in service delivery, right? So this is why I think that the number one priority for all businesses should make sure that their sales and marketing systems are dialed in and day out, right? That the human to human, person to person interaction is happening every day. But then the marketing activities, the social media content, the email content, the podcast content, the YouTube content, whatever, again, your content is, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is actually going out every single day, so that we can create that consistency, can create that relationship with people. Because again, their energy is very fragmented, and our ability to get their attention, keep their attention, and build that relationship is ultimately what is driving revenue inside of our companies. So again, really ask yourself, get really honest. This isn't about beating yourself up. This isn't about making yourself feel like shit. Like, get really honest with yourself. Is my sales and marketing activity consistent enough to generate the revenue that I want to generate in my business? And if it is not, that is your first opportunity to make a change. That's your first opportunity to look at, what are we doing? What does this activity look like? If you're not sure what that activity is, reach out to a member of my team, please. Like, reach out to me, reach out to us. We can really, this is basically what we do. It's the crux of what we do, is what is the sales and marketing activity that we do inside of our company that generates revenue. This is what we help our clients do. So the second thing that could be causing a problem, so if you're like, Ryan, I'm consistent, but my revenue is still inconsistent, then you may have a messaging problem, which means that you are struggling to actually get your ideal client's attention and speak to their problems, their pain points, their goals, their wishes, their dreams, their aspirations, and to do that consistently and to do that well. Right. So if you're like, I'm showing up, like I'm showing up so consistently, I'm in the DMs, showing up on social media, I'm doing it, but I'm just not getting the movement that I would like, then it's like, well, what is our messaging? Are we actually saying the right things? Are we actually speaking to them and their problems? Remember, there's two things we want to do from a sales messaging standpoint, right? People's number one need, like our number one need as humans, is to feel seen, heard, and understood. So is what you're putting out into the world actually showing them that I see you, I hear you, and I understand you? And then the second thing is, we need to enter the conversation that they're already having in their head, right? What are they already talking about? What is already coming up for them? What is keeping them up at night? What are they thinking about in the shower in the morning when they're thinking about all the things that need to happen that day? And are you speaking directly to that? And honestly, a lot of people, this is the biggest challenge, right? Like when I scroll through social media, and I spend so much time on social media, and most people, their messaging is maybe clever or punchy or funny, but it's like, I don't know what the hell you do. So I might like you as a person, but I'm not going to reach out to you and ask you, what you do or how you help people, right? And the reason for this is, and this isn't just me, this is human nature. Like, as humans, we don't like to feel stupid. Like, as humans, we don't like to raise our hands and say, hey, I don't really know what this person's talking about. So we're not going to say, hey, can you clarify your message? I think maybe this is for me, but can you tell me? We're not going to do that as human beings, right? We're going to just be like, I guess that's not for me because I don't really understand what they're saying. So it is our jobs as marketers, as salespeople, as the people responsible for driving revenue inside of our companies, to get so darn good at talking about what that conversation in their language, so that it is crystal flipping clear what they do. And this is such an important part. And this is, guys, something that just grows with practice. This grows with experience. So if you are somebody who's newer to business and you're like, oh my gosh, this is totally what's happening to me, I'm showing up consistently, but I'm not getting any movement. And so what I see a lot of people wind up doing is they start to change things. Like, well, maybe I'm just talking to the wrong person, or maybe I need to change my niche, or maybe I need to, change direction altogether. That's not always the case, right? Like, you have seen that meme before of the guy with the pickaxe who's like digging away to get to the goal, and he quits like 2 inches away from the gold, and he turns around and walks away, and that you can like literally see in the representation that the gold is 2 inches away. Like, oftentimes that's where we are, right? Oftentimes we are so darn close to that gold, but we get so frustrated with not seeing the results that we want to see that we turn around and walk away before we get there. So really ask yourself before you burn everything down, change all your messages, make a ton of different changes. Like, hey, what's happening here? And, how close am I? Because most of the time it's a very small tweak in your messaging, the conversation that you're having, that is going to get you closer. But those are the two things that I really want you thinking about. Like, how can I show my ideal client that they're seen, heard, and understood when they work with our company? And then how can I enter the conversation that they're already having in their head? And then when I do that, I'm definitely going to start to see movement in my marketing. I'm definitely going to start to see movement in people reaching out to me. So this is also a really big challenge that I see for a lot of people, is this messaging piece. And a lot of this takes practice. A lot of this takes consistency, persistence in showing up in a meaningful way. But when you get good at this, it really will make all the difference in the world. And I'll be honest with you, it took me a really long time to get good at this. My businesses grew so quickly early on. Primarily, it was in the middle of the pandemic, which was a time when a lot of online businesses were growing so quickly. But we also just did so much human to human connection. I had a social seller on my team very early on. Like, we did so much person to person communication that, our content was mediocre. Our content wasn't doing the heavy lifting for us, unfortunately, at that time. And now it's a really good combination of both. I've shared this before on the podcast, right? That we're about 50-50, where it's content and conversations that are driving the revenue in our business. But this is something that takes time to master. So I really want to encourage you that to, stay the course, stay consistent, stay persistent in sharing your message. People will hear you as long as you're fine tuning it every single day. And then the third thing that is causing inconsistent revenue in your business is your energy. It is your energy. And there's a lot of different ways that I can go with this. And even like I said, I was taking notes. I was like, which way do I want to take this? But, first it starts with belief, right? Do you believe that what you are doing is going to work? Do you believe that what you are doing is going to work? Because that's the first thing. If you think, here I am posting on social media till I am blue in the face and there's just no way in hell this is going to help me build $1 million business, then it's never going to work for you, right? You're wasting your time in what you are doing if you do not believe that it is going to work for you. So that's the first thing we have to do, is we have to get into energetic alignment with the actual action that we're taking, right? So that we don't waste our time taking a bunch of action that we don't believe is going to work for us. And the best way for me to do this is to look around on social media, the number of people making millions and millions and millions of dollars simply leveraging social media, this silly tool that we used to post pictures of our food on. Like, it's so damn easy. And when we can get into that energy of, this is so damn easy, all I have to do is show up, speak my truth, be good at talking about what I do, and I can make millions of dollars. Like, energetically, that is how we have to show up. We have to show up in belief that this is going to work for me, because otherwise, like I said, all the action in the world is a giant waste of time if you don't believe it's going to work for you. And then the second one is the energy behind sales and marketing in general. So do we believe this is going to work? But how do I feel about sales and marketing, right? If I hate marketing, if I hate sales, like, dead in the water. When I was working with brand new business owners, and this is actually the very specific reason why I don't work with brand new business owners anymore, is I'm done convincing people that sales is the lifeblood of your business, right? Like, I am done convincing people that sales is not a bad thing. I am done convincing people that you have to sell to actually make money. I just don't want to work with that person anymore. Like, I just don't have the energy to convince people that the number one driver of revenue in their business, they can't hate it and be successful. So I'm done doing that as a business owner. But there are still some people that I talk to, and again, some of these people are making a lot of money where their relationship with sales and their relationship with marketing is pretty unhealthy. And that unhealthy relationship with sales and marketing is, again, going to impact the revenue, right? So when you're feeling good about sales and you're in alignment and it's moving and you're like, this is amazing, and money comes in, and then all of a sudden you get in your head, you have a couple of days where you don't drive as much revenue as you like, you get a few no's on sales calls, you get a couple of objections, maybe you have a launch that didn't yield as much money as the previous launch, and then all of a sudden you're telling yourself the story about why sales is bad, marketing is bad, the way you're showing up is bad, and then all of a sudden you're on this energetic spiral, and that is explaining why the revenue is inconsistent, because the story that you are telling yourself about your sales and marketing, or about sales and marketing in general, is actually what is driving that revenue, right? So just being really mindful of, what is my relationship to sales? What is my relationship to marketing? What is my relationship to showing up? What is my relationship to the activity that we're taking as it relates to sales and marketing? Because that is definitely going to cause inconsistent revenue if you're having inconsistent thoughts, feelings, and emotions towards it, right? So there's first of all, just the energetics about, is it going to work? The belief factor, but then it's like, what are the energetics behind the sales and marketing that you're doing? What do you really believe is going to work, and all those different things. And then, of course, there's the energy behind your pricing, right? There's the energy behind money and pricing that I see causes so much drama for business owners, right? Where I see a lot of inconsistent revenue come in is that somebody has, started something as a beta or an intro, and they offered maybe a lower rate or a lower price, and they signed a bunch of clients, and like, okay, cool. Now I want to take it up to the rate that I actually want to get paid for this thing. And then all of a sudden, their sales decrease, right? Their sales aren't happening as consistently because their story that they're telling themselves is about the money, right? The story that they're telling themselves is about their pricing. And so if we're not aligned with our pricing and we don't have a strong relationship with money, especially as we make price increases and make changes in our pricing and roll out new offers and maybe do things that are costing a little bit more, right? Again, that energetic misalignment is causing that inconsistent revenue. You're like, when I was selling this as $1,000, I was selling it like as hotcakes when I sell it for $3,000, I'm not selling it as much, because then we know it's not the product, right? It's the price, and it's your energetic alignment. It's the way you feel about the price that's actually causing that inconsistency, not the product, not the marketing, not any of those things. It's your relationship with the price of the thing. And this is one that has probably, if I'm honest, has plagued me the most, right? In doing price increases, in figuring out, offers and how we want to grow the agency and all those different things, is making changes in prices and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. This is definitely one that I work on every single day. So I also want to point out that these are not things that, at least in my experience, go away. These are things that we consistently have to work on every single day. Again, as primary revenue drivers in our business, is we have to constantly be managing our energy around all of these things, right? Around our belief, around our sales and marketing, around our pricing and money, because we want to make sure that we stay consistent so that the revenue stays consistent. So it's all of those things combined, right? So you might be able to find this one thing. You're like, no, Ryan, this is definitely the one thing that is plaguing me. This is what is causing inconsistent revenue in my business. For most of us, it's a combination, right? Our activity isn't consistent. Our messaging is off. We're letting our energy waver because of previous results or circumstances. And then we create this cocktail of inconsistency. And then we stay there, and then we stress out about it, and then we just perpetuate the inconsistency, right? So the first thing that I want you to really do as you listen to this podcast is just be really honest with yourself as which one of these things is causing the inconsistent revenue in my business. And then what are the action steps or the energetic steps that I need to make to get into alignment to solve this problem? Because the better you get at solving this, the better you get at being aware of it, the better you get at knowing where your limitations are, what you're bumping up against that's causing these problems, the fewer inconsistencies you will have, right? Again, there will always be the natural ebbs and flows of revenue in any business. As I said at the very beginning, hockey stick growth is not something that happens forever and ever and ever, and that's okay. But again, if you're seeing really high highs and really low lows, it's definitely one of these three things that is plaguing you in that way. And again, like I said, the better you get at it, the more you can get it. They always say awareness is the first step. The more aware you are of where your problem is, the faster you're going to be able to fix that problem, of course. But then again, as time goes on, you're going to be able to collapse time and spend less time in one of those lulls, because you're like, oh, okay, my sales activity isn't where I need it to be. Oh gosh, okay, our messaging has changed a little bit. I wound up down a rabbit hole, and so I need to come back to the basics of our messaging. Or energetically, I've been really off. We had a shitty launch. I let it, get into my head, or we did a big price increase and I'm letting that plague me. And that's what's really causing the problem. So it could be any of those three things. And again, if it is activity, messaging, even energy, please reach out to us as a member of our team. This is actually what we do. This is what we're really passionate about, is again, ending the inconsistencies in revenue for businesses like yours. And we would love the opportunity to support you. We love your feedback. We love that you listen to the podcast. We love that you're a member of our community. So thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much for listening to Content and Conversations. If this was helpful for you, I would love if you would follow along, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you next week.